taking way longer than I thought. But he waits, and she's slicing up all that fruit. And then there's that vibrant fruit salad, all complete. And he motions to her. He says, "Vámonos, let's go." But then she says, "Oh, just a minute, Señor Calavera. I just have 5 cheeses to melt. 5. This is getting out of hand, he thinks. But he waits. He waits. And the cheese is just melting away. And then when she's all done, he grabs her sweater to help her. "Oh, just a minute, Señor Calavera. I just have 6 pots of food to cook." Ay, ay, ay. He throws up his hands. He's like, "Well, what am I going to do now?" So then he waits. He actually helps her cook a little bit. And then when all that delicious food is all cooked, he extends his arm out, ready to go. "Oh, just a minute, Señor Calavera. I'll go with you right away. I just have 7 piñatas to fill. 7. It's getting too late." But he waits. And she fills all those piñatas with candy. And he heads to the door and he opens the door. "Oh, just a minute, Señor Calavera. I'll go with you right away. I just have 8 platters of food to set on the table. 8. Oh, Mr. Señor Calavera, he was pretty furious. He started stomping in frustration. He didn't even care to count the platters to see when she was done. And then he hears her, so excited. "Oh, Señor Calavera, look. My 9 beautiful grandchildren have just arrived." And he looks and he counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. And she is so excited, Grandma Beetle. "All my 10 guests are here. They have all arrived." And her grandchildren are thinking, "Well, we're 9. Grandma Beetle, who's number 10? She grabs Señor Calavera. "Señor Calavera, he's 10. He's number 10. Yes." And then she announces to everybody, "It is time to celebrate my birthday." And they did. They celebrated, they danced, they ate the delicious food, they broke apart those colorful piñatas, and when it was time for her to blow out her candles, like a hurricane, she wiped them all out. It was perfect. And as the party came to an end, she scooped up all her grandchildren in her arms, and she gave them so much love, and she kissed them on their foreheads one by one. And then she hollers to Señor Calavera, "Señor Calavera, I'm ready. Señor Calavera." He's nowhere to be found. All she finds is her front door cracked wide open and a note on the door. And it says, "Dear Grandma Beetle, I had such a blast at your party. It was the most fun I have ever had. I will not miss your next birthday for anything in the world. You can count on that. Sincerely, Señor Calavera." So Grandma Beetle goes and she closes the door behind her with a smirk on her face, feeling very accomplished, and thinks, "I will count on that." Thank you. Thank you so much. And now I get to present the next storyteller to share her experience with stealing. I am so excited to present to you Mackenzie Saunders. Yeah, Mackenzie Saunders is a writer and disability advocate that combines her love for public speaking with her perspective on living life while disabled. She tells stories about grief, acceptance, inclusion, and growing up. She has been featured in many storytelling events across the state, including the Moth Phoenix, Arizona Storytellers Project, and the Storyline Slam. A native of Phoenix, Mackenzie is a graduate of the ASU School of Social Transformation. She has 2 loving parents, 2 wonderful sisters, and 1 silly cat. And a fun fact, her parents held their wedding reception right here at ASU Care in 1989. Yeah, let's welcome Mackenzie Saunders.
When I was 20 years old, I stole someone's name tag so I could sneak into an event hosted by Harvard Law School. Which might be the nerdiest reason to steal something. But hear me out. I didn't get caught. So, I mean, like, is it really even stealing? I feel like stealing that isn't harmful to anyone is really more like reallocating. I simply reallocated someone's name tag to myself. You know, I'm Robin Hooding it. It's almost noble, really. It's like the time I smuggled 14 hot dogs in my purse from a Knicks game. That is true. I feel like that wasn't stealing. Those hot dogs did not make or break Madison Square Garden. So, anyway, enough about the hot dogs. It was February 2019. I was still going to ASU at the time, and I was in the midst of applying to Harvard Law. Deep down, I did not believe I had an actual shot at getting accepted. I had just kind of flopped my LSAT, the law school admissions exam, a few months prior, so I wasn't feeling super confident about my application. But it was my dream school, and it has been for a really long time. I knew that I would be really mad at myself if I didn't try my hardest to get in. So I booked a trip to Boston for a week so I could shadow some classes and tour the campus. On the first day I was there, I learned that all of the first-year Harvard Law students were invited to what's called a firm reception that night, and it was hosted by some major law firm. The invite was very exclusive for first-year law students at Harvard, so naturally, I decided to crash it. And I had to go, and here is why. I figured if I could successfully sneak into this event and convince these major lawyers that I am indeed a law student at Harvard, then I could do anything. I could get accepted to the school. I could even do well if I got in. There was a slight hiccup in my plan to attend, besides the whole not being invited thing. It was snowing really hard that night, and snow and I aren't exactly friends. I sustained a spinal cord injury when I was 11 years old, and since then I've had a permanent physical disability. I have limited mobility and sensation in my legs, and thanks to nerve damage, my legs work really poorly in the cold. Luckily, I had packed my leg braces, which helped me a lot with my walking. So I put on my trusty leg braces and I hobbled my way to the bar. When I stepped inside, I was immediately ushered to a check-in table so that they could verify my identity. I don't know what I was expecting. I guess not a check-in table or any sort of formal sign-in process. So I kind of started freaking out a little bit. And then I look at the table and it's covered in name tags, which makes my job so much easier. So I kind of lock eyes on one in particular, and I get to the front of the line and they ask me what my name is, and I Robin Hood one of those name tags and I go, this is my name, this is me, I am Mirabelle. And they were like, okay, cool, you're all checked in, have a good time. So easy. Almost too easy. I'm walking around this event and I'm starting to get really nervous that everyone can tell I don't belong there. I mean, first of all, this is by far the nicest bar I have ever been to in my life. And I'm surrounded by all of these very well-dressed, brilliant, important people. And here I am, 20-year-old clunky leg brace girl who doesn't even go here. When you use mobility aids in public, people tend to stare at you. Whether it's a wheelchair or a walker or leg braces, people stare. And at that moment, people were staring at me, and I couldn't figure out if it was because they knew I didn't go to school there or because I was visibly disabled. Could have been either or, 50-50 at that point. So I come up with a perfect plan. I go to the coat check at the front of the bar, I take off my leg braces, and I say, hey, so I know these aren't coats, but could I put these with you for the night? The coat check guy gives me a very hesitant yes. Kind of takes them from me like this and like tosses them in the closet. Gauging his reaction, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who's checked leg braces into that bar's coat check before. So I am really breaking barriers. I walk away braceless, and I go on to have an absolutely fantastic night. It turns out firm receptions are less about people networking with major lawyers, and it's more about emotionally exhausted students taking full advantage of an open bar and getting absolutely hammered for free on a Tuesday. And that's the kind of crowd I can impress. So I'm making friends, I'm cracking jokes, I am drinking a lot. I even talked to some of the major lawyers without blowing my cover. They were like, oh, what's your favorite class you're taking? And why? And I was like, contracts. Because you never know what's in them. I'm so surprised that that did not blow my cover. But the night was successful. The event ends. I retrieve my leg braces from the back of the closet. I put them on my legs, and I start hobbling back from the bar. I thought that I would be feeling on top of the world. I thought that if I successfully crashed this event, if I convinced these people that I belonged at Harvard Law, that I would convince myself that I belonged there. But I still didn't feel that way. And at that moment, walking back, I finally pinpointed why I didn't feel like I could get accepted. I didn't see one disabled person at that event. Actually, come to think of it, I didn't see one disabled person in any of the classes that I shadowed or any of the tours that I got. This whole time, when I was thinking of the people who have graduated from Harvard Law or go to school there now, I was not thinking of people with disabilities. And that's me. You know, I'm disabled. That's a huge part of my point of view and my life's journey and the reason why I want to go to law school in the first place. I mean, I took off my leg braces because I thought that's how I could fit in there, but you know, those aren't my values. And that's not me. Being physically disabled, I may not seem or sometimes look like someone who traditionally goes to or thrives at somewhere like Harvard. But maybe things need to change. You know, maybe they need more people with disabilities, more people like me, you know, sharing our unique perspectives. Stealing that name tag really shifted my mindset. flew back to Arizona a few days later, completely recharged. I retook the LSAT, I submitted my application, and I was accepted that July. After 3 years of deferring, I finally start school there this August, unless they revoke my admission if they find out I crashed one of their events. Or that I stole hot dogs from Madison Square Garden. I'm really proud to say that the next time I go to a firm reception, I'm not gonna have to steal a name tag to get in. And I'm not gonna have to check my leg braces at the door, because I'll be wearing them proudly.
Wow. What a beautiful and empowering story, reminding us of what it is to really be authentic in being ourselves, and what a powerful way to bring awareness also through your story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I have to ask, did you ever find out who Mirabelle was?
I think about Mirabelle constantly. No, I never found out. I asked some students, I was like, hey, do you know this name? They're like, no. So who's to say? Who's to say anyone knows Mirabelle? I don't know.
Maybe it was yours all along.
That meant to be.
Yes.
Meant to be.
Well, thank you so much, Mackenzie. That was beautiful, beautiful story. Thank you so much. All right, we've got another wonderful story for you. I know, it keeps getting better, doesn't it? All right, next up, we have Mishka Shubaly. Mishka Shabali, with his stealing story, you'll hear in just a minute. He is a best-selling author and songwriter. In 2020, his book, Cold Turkey, How to Quit Drinking by Not Drinking, landed on the New York Times bestseller list. I know, you want to look it up, don't you? He self-published a collection of his 7 best-selling Kindle singles with a foreword by Jeff Bezos called The Long Run and Other Stories this year. Mishka has been featured in many storytelling events, including shows for The Moth and tons of insightful podcasts. His 10th album, Purgatory, was released in 2021. Please help me welcome Mishka Shabali.
Give it up one more time for Nereyda and Mackenzie. That was... I was going to tell a story about the LSAT too, but I guess I'm going to have to go with option B. If you move backwards through human evolution, it starts with Homo sapiens, and then Neanderthals, and then a bunch more Latin until basically you get to monkeys, and then somewhere between monkeys and slime you find young men in their early 20s. So this story took place when I was only 20. I was living in a little house in Denver with 3 other subhumans, and my roommate Dave was the first one to notice that stuff was going missing. Dave's camera was gone. Our roommate Keith had lost a bunch of CDs. There was a big bowl of change from my room that had disappeared. And not like all stuff that we could live without, but our stuff, you know? And it's not like a burglary was gonna upset our sort of harmonious little Denver paradise. Shit had been bad for a long time. Keith was unemployed and just drunk all the time and only got by sponging from his mom and his sister. Kane, our gay roommate, had a stable 9-to-5 job, but then spent all weekend cruising for ass at the local park. So there was a steady stream of random dudes going to and from his room all weekend. I lived in the unheated basement, also known as the Pit of Despair, with Dave, with only a thin sheet of fake wood paneling separating us. And at night, when he got it on with the girl from his drunk driving class, I could hear every nuance, every minute detail in the sort of like biologic HD, not just the dirty talk and whatever perversion they were engaged in, or whenever one of them achieved their goal, but whether they were using a condom or not. I swear, after a couple of months, I knew Dave's sperm count. I was doing door-to-door sales, having been escorted to the door by security from my last real job. I was heartbroken and adrift. I had moved to Denver from the other side of the country, and my girlfriend was going to move there as well. And then at some point, she changed her plans and just didn't show up, and I never found out why. And so I drank as much as I could, and had recently gotten turned on to this new drug that some girl was mixing up in the trunk of her car that she called crystal, which I found to be distant in essence from the crystals that I saw the hippie girls wearing around their necks. So it was an unhinged time. My roommate Keith said, there were the Mexican laborers working next door re-roofing a house, and he sort of indicated that it was probably them. But I'd seen those guys out there busting their asses in the hot sun, and they weren't thieves. Thieves are lazy. And I knew somebody supremely lazy, somebody who had a bone to pick with us. Nate, an ex-friend, a bartender who used to serve me even though I was underage. The original plan had been that Nate was going to come and live with us with our, when I had found our current indoor slum. And then I found out that he was using heroin. And I was the one who made the call that in addition to all our other problems, we didn't need a junkie in the house. So Nate had cussed me out in front of everyone else, and it just seemed obvious. He knew that we couldn't be bothered to lock our doors. He had a grudge against me. So I made up my mind to call him and to confront him. And Keith begged me not to. And I almost listened to him because I really loved Keith. He was 24. He was 4 years older than me. It seemed like he just was figuring it out. He was an actor. He had a girlfriend. He'd already gone to jail. Our fates seemed sort of tied together, and I wanted to be like Keith when I grew up. And also I was afraid that I was going to wind up like Keith. And, but he was just begging me not to call Nate and not to confront him about this. And then finally I had this epiphany that life just systematically steals shit away from you. And if at some point you don't fight back, you'll be left with nothing. So I called Nate and I said I knew what he'd done and just not to come by our house again. And 5 minutes later, he was outside hammering on the door, screaming for me to come out. And went to the door. Keith tried to get in the way, or tried to get between us, and tried to calm Nate down. And Nate was like, "Oh, you're going to hide behind Keith, you coward." And that word describes perfectly what I was. And because of that, I couldn't bear to hear it. So I pushed Keith out of the way, and I squared up with Nate. And there was just that sort of scuffle at the beginning where there's just a sputter of fists and nobody lands anything. And then I got my hand on the collar of Nate's shirt. And I looked at his face, a face that I'd loved. Nate and I used to stay up late snorting coke and getting hammered and listening to John Prine. And he had this face like a friendly old badger, and I had loved him. And then Nate clocked me in the side of the head. And I got mad. I got mad at Nate for stealing our stuff and then forcing this confrontation, and obviously for punching me. But I got mad at other people too. I got mad at my old boss for firing me, and I got mad at my piss-hearted roommates for letting me deal with every problem that came up, and I got mad at my ex-girlfriend for annoying me and hanging around until I fell completely in love with her and then disappearing as soon as I needed her. And I got mad at my parents for taking care of me and then ejecting me into a world where I had no idea how to take care of myself, and mad at my dad for ignoring me, and mad at my mom for loving me, and like hating both their fucking guts for being weak and horny and creating me because I didn't ask to get born, you know? And with my left hand, I held Nate's face still, and with my right hand, I tried to destroy it. And Nate was tough, and we fought all over the front yard before I finally got him down. And I said, "Say uncle," and he said, "Fuck you." And I hit him 3 more times, and he said, "Uncle, uncle," and I let him up, and he was just streaming blood, and he said, "Fuck you, you won, so I'm a pussy, but I'm not a thief." And then he walked off. And Keith was just looking at me in horror, and I went in the house to clean myself up, and I was like, Nate looked like a horror show, like I must be fucked up. And I went in, and my shirt was torn, and I had blood all over my shirt and my hands and my jeans and my shoes, and I had a big spot of blood on my forehead, and it washed away. It was Nate's blood, and I didn't have a mark on me. And there were all these things that I wanted to do with my life. You know, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to love somebody and have them love me back. And all of that had failed. And then this was the thing that I was going to be good at. I went out in the front yard, and there was like blood in the dirt and blood on the side of the house and like blood in the leaves of a low-hanging tree. And Keith was like gasping and coughing and starting to have an asthma attack. And this story makes me sound like a monster, and I felt like a monster. The couple months later, our little house of broken toys broke up. We put Keith in rehab, and Kane ripped us all off for the security deposit. I ended up moving to New York City. I think we'd all been horrified by my behavior that day, but it solved the problem. Nothing else went missing after that. And so who was the thief? Well, it wasn't the roofers. I knew it wasn't the roofers. I knew that the entire time. And I knew then that it wasn't Nate. He had proven that to me. And it was only years later that I found out that the person who was stealing our stuff and selling it to the pawn shop for money to buy alcohol was my friend Keith. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing a really significant time in your life.
I'm so sorry.
This is how we learn about life, through stories. And it seems like there was a lot of really deep life lessons impacted in there. And I wanted to ask, how has telling this story helped you give yourself compassion through it all?
That's a good question. I don't think that I've forgiven myself for that episode. I've never encountered Nate again, so there's never been a chance to sort of make peace or seek forgiveness or make an apology or anything. I think one of the things that has helped me sort of move on is I have a nephew who's named after me, and he's 20 now, and that kid is a total knucklehead. And like that's where I was, you know. He means well, but he doesn't always make the best decisions. And to see him, I guess I can see a little bit of myself in that too.
Yeah, it's like kind of re-seeing your story a little bit, kind of. Yeah, well, thank you so much. It's such a powerful story to share with us. Thank you. Let's give him another hand. Mishka, thank you. All right, our last storyteller tonight is Harold H.B. Branch III. He has a very impressive bio, so let's give you some highlights. Originally from Chicago, HB is a Fulbright Fellow who has trained domestically and internationally for over 20 years. Guiding organizational management with his unique skills, he spent a month in Ghana on the Fulbright Hayes Fellowship as an artistic cultural ambassador. He has a master's in psychology with a focus in coaching. And his first book, Finding My Way, uses poetry and coaching techniques to help readers through their own healing journey. It has been used as a learning tool nationwide. The Michigan Board of Education included him in their 2016 list of 100 African American males you should know. HB is the organizer and MC of HomeBase Poetry, a much-loved spoken word poetry open mic and arts event that began in 2009. It's one of the largest, longest-running open mic events in the country. Look it up. HB is a past recipient of Phoenix's Martin Luther King Jr. Living the Dream Award and has been featured in Black Enterprise magazine. He's another ASU alum we have here tonight. Please help me welcome HB.
Christ, this guy. I should have gave you a shorter bio. Lower your standards and expectations, everyone, please. You know, this story, I like to give things titles. So this is entitled Grand Theft Auto. Not the video game. I know I see a lot of gamers here tonight. So not that. Now there's a lot of songs that's been written about cars. Can you think of some? Smokey Robinson. Baby, let's cruise. Oh, I'm gonna stop there before I mess it up. What about all my friends drive? Thank you. I got two in the room. I got two. And then, of course, rolling down the street, smoking, sipping on gin and juice. I knew I had at least one gangster in the room. At least one gangster. Pardon me, I just saw Snoop 2 days ago, so I'm kind of excited. The bottom line is, cars and driving is such a huge part of our culture. And growing up as a young man, as a boy, it was a major part of the culture. You're supposed to know what car, how it drives, what's the engine, and all these different things. And not being able to wait to drive was everybody. You couldn't wait to drive. And as a black man growing up in a black neighborhood, I learned about black car culture and where it came from. And understanding that so much of it and the focus on cars actually came from the unfair housing practices of the country, of redlining, of not being able to get loans, even our veterans, not being able to get the loans that was due to them over the years. So because of the barriers to buy homes, what's the next huge purchase so that you could feel accomplished? I'm gonna get a car, and I'm gonna make that car look right, and I'm gonna put it all into that vehicle. That's one of the reasons that focus was there, because of what happened before. See, being able to drive and looking forward to it, I remember not being able to wait to go scoop up my homeboys, to go visit some girls. I was young, so it was a plural on the girls. So, I was a kid, right? But it wasn't just being able to go have fun. It was the freedom, the maturity, the ability to make my own choices, to be in charge of this tank of a machine that, if used wrong, could hurt people, if used right, could bring a whole lot of joy. This was a serious responsibility. And it was something that I couldn't wait to Exactly. Exactly. They know, right? It was something I couldn't wait to participate in, something I couldn't wait to do, to be able to keep it up, work on the engine, work on the alternator. This is what being a man was all about. And every young guy want to be a man. And once I got that driver's license, that piece of plastic, well, in Arizona, you got to turn it like this when you're under 21, right? Once I got that, it was everything I expected it to be. It was next level. I grew, I matured, I made decisions on a daily basis. I also had to run a whole lot of errands for my dad, but that's not the point. It was totally worth it. And I couldn't wait to do the same thing with my son, to walk him through that process, to be excited, to go out, take him to an empty parking lot and help him drive. I couldn't wait. And eventually I grew, I had a son, and he hit 15 years old. And he couldn't wait. He was excited. He wanted to get that driver's permit so bad, because sometimes I wasn't going to take him to his friend's house, right? He was limited in where he was going to go. Now, it's important for me to tell you a little bit about my son. My name is Harold Gregory Branch III. He is, of course, Harold Gregory Branch IV. That was part of the deal with every date. That was it. Hey, just want to let you know, if this works out, Harold Branch IV, can you handle that? It's a deal breaker, right? We got to do it. And I don't ask much of them, except I need a fifth, right? You can do what you want with the rest of them. Give me a fifth. The bottom line is, this kid is amazing. No one doesn't like this child. My son, I'm so proud of him. When he was 9, he took the ACTs and scored a 21, which is what you need to get into ASU, right? This kid, when he did his IQ test, he ranked far into the genius level with his IQ. The dude is brilliant. And the cool thing is, he's not just brilliant, he's well balanced. He's fun, right? He's having a good time. He's a leader. He is the kid that his friends' parents hope is there and in the room. Other kids can't even go to parties if Quattro isn't there. By the way, we call him Quattro. Got to give him his own identity. He is that child. And anytime I go and pick him up, they always compliment. He is so polite. He's so friendly. But what I love about him most is his heart. He don't have a bad bone in his body. He doesn't even understand how people can treat other people bad. It really hurts his spirit. There is no one you would rather have around you, at your home, hanging out with your kids. You wish he was your kid. Right now, you would probably trade one of your kids in for my son. Right now. If they're sitting next to you, don't look at them, I get it. So he was excited, and we were going to get his permit, and I kept asking, have you got it done yet? He's very self-motivated. I don't have to follow up. But it was the last piece that he just didn't do. Did you get it yet? Did you get it yet? Are you working on it? And his energy shifted. And he just wasn't as exuberant about a license anymore. I didn't understand, but I also wasn't going to push him. This is on you. The longer it takes you, the more you got to ask me to go somewhere. But I was confused, and one day we were driving right off Shea, and I asked him, what's going on? You were fired up about driving. What happened? And he said, Dad, with everything going on, I see all these black men dying. With everything I'm seeing, it's not worth it. That broke my heart. It broke my heart that my 15-year-old was afraid to drive because he has seen too many black men die at the hands of police officers who did not need to die. The vicarious trauma of those videos of being unaware of situations where the driver did nothing wrong. And it's always a reason. Everybody always got a reason. Well, he shouldn't have been selling cigarettes. Well, he should have followed directions. But my son also saw people who wasn't black yell at cops, become aggressive, do different things, and they got to go home. And he said, "Dad, I don't know what I could do." And I had to have that talk with him that so many parents have to have with their children. Let me tell you the rules. Make sure to always have both hands on the steering wheel. Never drive with the light on in the car. Never drive with a hood or your hat on. You don't get to not use your blinker. You don't have these options. You can still enjoy driving. But there's rules for us to minimize. Never raise your voice. Son, you have a lawyer. Don't throw it in their face. But just let them know respectfully, never raise your voice. You may be upset. You may feel like it's unfair. You may get one of those officers that speaks to you with disrespect, and they curse at you and they yell at you, and it's dishonorable and you don't deserve it, but you are not allowed to respond in kind, because that could be your last mistake. But how do I reassure my son about driving as a black man, as a young black man, 6'1", locks down to here, when I'm afraid to drive too sometime? It was tough. And I had to find a way to make them comfortable. I had to find a way to make it all right. And I talked to friends, and I talked to some officers, because, ironically, I sit on the board for the Scottsdale Police Department. So I talked to the chief and a couple of the assistant chiefs when we were out having lunch. And it broke their heart as much as it broke mine. And they said, this was the best part, "I get it. There are some officers out here making it bad for all of us, making it tough. But that's not everybody. He needs to meet the ones that care about him as much as anyone else." And we did introductions, and I helped massage that fear out of him, help get him excited. And you know what worked the best? When he wanted to go see his friends, I kept saying no. You know, you're going to get past it when you're stuck in the house, right? I need you to get past this, kid. Yeah, let's figure it out. And eventually, he got his license. It took him an extra year, longer than everyone else. But he got it done. And now I'm driving him around, and I'm next to him. And like every parent who has ever taught their kid to drive, I am absolutely terrified. And I'm trying not to raise my voice, because that's going to make it worse while he's driving. And I'm digging my feet into the passenger. Y'all know what I'm talking about. No, you're doing great. Right? I'm trying to hit the brakes on the passenger side, you know. And it's been a wonderful experience. And I'm so proud of him. He's so responsible. He's so sharp. His learning curve is amazing. He is who I could have been If I was as focused and had the lack of trauma that he has, he doesn't have the distractions. And it's amazing. And I'm so proud. And my heart is still a little cracked that excitement, that exuberance for a full year was stolen from him. That our bonding moment for an entire year was taken from us. Our father's son, something I've been looking forward to for decades, was marred, was tainted by something that wasn't our fault. And my genius son, who got a 21 on the ACTs when he was 9 years old, who went to Arizona State University, like his dad, as a freshman at the age of 16, studying biomedical engineering. And he just finished his first year. All A's and B's. The boy's bad. But the fact that he had to worry makes me wonder how many other young men are having, young women are having that experience stolen from them. And I have to sit back and ask myself, as I prepare for him to go and drive for the first time without me in the car, I ask myself the same question he asked me. Is it worth it? Thank you.
Thank you, HB, for such a personal experience that now we get to see, we get to have insight, we get to have awareness and understanding, which is what's so beautiful about storytelling, is that you can share these experiences. I have to ask, has your son heard this story before?
Not the way I just delivered it, right? Clearly he was a part of it. Mm-hmm. So we've had those conversations, and he knew I spoke with my buddies over at Scottsdale about it, but I submitted this story for today and then realized I didn't ask his permission. So I asked him today, was like, hey, do you mind if I tell your story to strangers? And he didn't care, right? He was playing a video game. He was like, whatever, I'm killing zombies. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a beautiful story that you, I hope, pass down to many other boys and girls. Absolutely. And that he also passes down. Mm-hmm. And it will make the world of a difference in knowing that they're not alone.
And passing it to those who never have to worry about that.
Exactly.
That never had to think about that. Passing it to them, that's more important than anything.
And that's the power of storytelling.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow. That was incredible. We have heard such different, diverse, all powerful stories tonight. I have been moved so many times tonight. It's been pretty incredible, and I'm so glad that you all have been a part of that tonight and supported their voice, hearing their voice. That is also the power of storytelling. We get to use our voice. So I'm going to invite all of our tellers to come have a seat as we get to chat. I will start off with a few questions for them. But again, if you have any questions, please let me know. If you have a question maybe for a specific teller, a general question, whatever it is, don't be afraid to ask. This is why we are here. So I'm going ahead and start. Okay, so the first question we will go ahead and all answer. This is a very interesting theme this month, right? Stealing. And it obviously was interpreted in a lot of different ways. So the question is, did you have a clear picture in your mind of what story you'd be telling when you learned that the theme was stealing? Okay, so I'll go ahead and start. And I think I actually kind of answered this question at the beginning. I was kind of pushed into this role tonight, but it was quite amazing. And actually, it was because of the story that I told tonight. I told it at a different event, and Liz Warren, the director of the Storytelling Institute, was like, "Hey, this is a great one with the theme," and I never thought about it. So that was really neat to be like, "Oh, she stole more time, and she got to live more." So that was definitely unexpected and pretty fun. So Mackenzie, I'll hand it over to you.
I was.
Here, I can pass it.
Oh no, it's on. It's on. I didn't hear it. I was pretty set on this story. I think from the get-go, because I think that's the most eventful thing I've ever stolen. So I was like, that's a good one. And I usually tell like pretty serious stories, and so I wanted to shake it up a little bit. Especially, I love telling funny stories that loop into disability. It's it's an easy way to learn more about it, and while feeling comfortable. And
I'm sure the name tag was like immediately brought up to you, right? That's perfect. Mishka?
I agreed to do this, and then when they told me what the theme was, I was like, well, obviously I'm going to have to bow out, because the only story that I have to tell is just me behaving in an abhorrent, antisocial manner, and I don't want to inflict this story on people. But I think stories force us to reckon with our own behavior and our own histories and the decisions that we've made and where we come from. This is a story that I've definitely wrestled with a ton, and and I continue to wrestle with. Sometimes sometimes you write something down or you tell a story, and then at the end of it, the moral is revealed, and I've sort of gone over this again and again, and I don't know what the moral is, but I think what's valuable for me about this story is just being reminded of it. I think it's important for each of us to remember that we carry the capacity for evil in our hearts, and forgiveness is great, and we all want to be good people and put good into the world. But I snapped that day, and I carry that with me.
And when you said you didn't know what the moral was, it might just be changing over time, which is kind of how stories work, huh?
This is possible.
Yeah. HP.
I had no idea. No clue. So I was thinking about stealing just from a very literal standpoint at first. And, anytime I do anything as a black man, I run it through filters. So I'm like, oh, stealing. Yeah. Let me make sure it's not feeding any stereotypes. It's not, you know what I mean? I got to be careful what that story looks like. So trying to figure it out was tough. And then it was like, okay, if it's not literal, let's take it to another level, and let's take it to another level of understanding. And I'm a poet more than anything, right? I'm with storytellers, but I do poetry. I'm Edgar Allan Poe and Langston Hughes. And so I was like, okay, let me think about it in that sense. And it hit me. It hit me when I was with my son driving. And I do tell that story. And he knows I tell it because I think it's important and it's powerful because, number one, of who he is, Like, literally, the boy never gets in trouble. You know what I mean? And, like, he comes home and is like, yeah, I was at a party. They was doing drugs and drinking. And they don't even ask me anymore, Dad. They don't even ask. You know, they know. I make sure they get home safe. I'm like, you're that friend. You're that friend, and make sure the friends don't go too far, right? So proud of you. You're a leader kind of thing. And for him to be afraid, I was a lot worse. Oh, my God, I was horrible. As a kid, oh, Jesus. I'm so glad we didn't have, like, camera phones.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I don't know. And that's why we need to give our young people respect, because they got phones with cameras on them and access to, like, all the porn on the planet. And some of us wouldn't have made it out of adolescence with that kind of access, you know. So I felt that was powerful. I was like, you know what? Something was stolen. That experience, that excitement was stolen. And when it hit me, I was like, that works. I'm going to go with it. And so, but had no idea at first, but it came, and it felt right.
Yeah, like good stories feel right, right? And I have to say, what a beautiful testament to the relationship that you have with your son to have that realization, this is not like him, and this is robbing him of his joy. So, yeah, thank you. Our next question, what do you personally gain from sharing your stories, and how do you hope how do you hope others will benefit from your stories? So for me, I think when I first learned about storytelling, I was shocked that I had started, it was a semester that I took at South Mountain Community College, and I was shocked that when I first started the class, everybody was a stranger, right? And everybody was very diverse, different ages, everything. And at the end of the semester, I felt like I knew them. Like I was so connected with them, because even though they might have experienced something very different than me, there was always something there that connected me to them. And it was just beautiful. I thought, oh my gosh, if we just all told stories, we would all just understand each other. But so that, I love that so much. I guess back to the question, that's what I gain from it, is to connect with others. What I hope that others benefit from when I tell stories, I love to tell personal stories that have to do with empowering specifically moms and just healing our traumas and how we can change the cycles with our children, and how this work is very hard when you are changing these patterns and cycles, but that we can do it, that we're not alone in doing it, and we have to like just keep going and not give up. Again, it's that feeling of not being alone. But yeah, I just hope that they're empowered, because it's kind of that feeling of like, well, if she's doing it, then I can do it, and we can do it together. Mackenzie?
I really love this question, because I always have a very clear purpose as to why I'm storytelling, and it's usually the same reason, and it's to normalize disability and to just like teach others about it a little bit. I mean, I've been living with a disability for over a decade now, and it's just such a normal, everyday thing to me that sometimes I forget that like it's not to others. And it's become such a normal thing for like me and my family to know about. And it's being disabled has taught me so much about like being more empathetic and learning that life kind of always comes with curveballs. So yeah, I really think that telling stories about disability helps, folks who may not know people with disabilities, like, oh, this is a completely normal thing, and the disability community is so big and diverse and beautiful, really. I really like to share it.
Yeah, and we remember stories, right? So then somebody will remember your story, and then that awareness and that empathetic feeling will come. Yes. Thank you. Mishka?
I feel like when I tell a story or when I'm writing a story that I try not to think of the reader or the listener And when I was getting sober, the only sort of literature that was out there at the time was this sort of like inspirational, you can do it, we're all moving forward together kind of thing. And that's not what my experience of getting sober was like. It was really ugly, and a lot of sort of like fear and resentment there. And I was like, I'm going to write this story as up close and ugly and as personal as I've experienced it, and it's going to destroy my writing career, and that's fine. And that was the biggest story that I've published, because I think just writing about the experience true as it was, without thinking about how other, that then it rang true to other people who had gone through similar things. Answering these questions, I don't want to talk about my stuff. I just want to talk about these incredible stories that we've heard. And I think that's that's one of the things that things that were so powerful about Mackenzie's story and about HB's story is that Mackenzie's just dealing with the up close personal life as a disabled person. This is what Monday is like. This is what Tuesday is like. And I don't have a disability, so to hear just what a normal day for her is like, it's a hidden world. HB's conversation with his son of these are the rules for black drivers. I didn't think about that. Or black hot rod culture. I was like, oh shit, that makes so much sense, and it's and black hot rod culture is killer, but I didn't realize it was such a sad impetus. But that's a long answer. But I don't know. I feel like it's just it's our role just to be completely honest with the subject matter.
Yeah. I hear you really saying how it was just really being raw and real with just life and sharing that. Yeah. HB?
I agree totally. Honesty is where it's at. Because ain't nothing wrong with us. Ain't nothing wrong with us. The liars are the perfect ones. Yeah. The liars are the ones who believe they don't have a disability, are the ones who won't admit to their addiction, are the ones who go through life ignoring the challenges of others and who believe they pulled themselves up by them bootstraps. You know what I mean? There's no such thing as a self-made man or woman. Even if somebody cleared the path before, I'm not saying you didn't work hard. Right. I'm just saying you didn't do it by yourself. Somebody guided, a mentor, somebody opened the door or whatever. So being raw, I feel, is a responsibility, because if I'm raw and I'm honest and it don't work out, I was 100. I failed being me. I failed being honest, and that's not a failure. But if I kill the crowd with a lie, that's not winning, and that's hollow. So as far as what I get from it, what I got from this moment right here is it's outside my comfort zone. So I've never done a live story. So this is my first time doing a live story. So that's different. And I did them on Zoom with this same organization like a year ago. So I blame ASU for a whole lot of my situations. And I'm in school right now, so I'm working on my doctorate in performance. So I'm writing very, systematic, and, I'm breaking out quantitative concepts and things like that, statistics. That's boring as hell. So I wanted to do something to keep my artist stretched out, right? So that's what this is, outside the comfort zone, keep living there. As far as what I want people to get from it, I want one or two things. I want somebody to sit in the audience and say, thank you. Speak for those who can't speak for themselves. cut your wounds open over and over, because that's the thing about being honest.
Right.
You're literally reliving trauma. And let me relive this trauma in front of everybody, in front of total strangers, so somebody could heal in the crowd. And if that's not your category, then the category that you fall in, hopefully, is I never knew.
Yeah.
And it expands your thinking, and expands your empathy, and expands your understanding, and expands your being able to digest that no one needs charity. We just need, everyone just needs respect. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's huge. That's so huge. We are so alike. We are the same people. I've had the pleasure of kicking it with literally everybody on the planet. Like I've kicked it with them, they just don't remember. You know what I'm saying? And every family got the same dynamics. They got the one relative that drink too much. They got the one relative that's too bossy. They got the one that, you know what I mean? Everybody has the same dynamics. Everyone on this planet wants to be happy, healthy, and safe. And all those differences and the fears that infringes even on that for other people are still born out of the need to be happy, healthy, safe. It's just showing up in a toxic way.
Right.
And if we just remind each other what is the common denominator, happy, healthy, safe, we could relate to each other. Every parent could relate to wanting their kid to be safe, even if it's different circumstances. You know what I mean? And maybe it'll check something. Maybe it'll turn a corner for someone. And maybe it won't. It ain't even my responsibility.
Right.
But I'm going to put it out here, and if they want growth, they'll take growth. If not, they'll be like, he's bullshitting. And guess what? I don't care. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I swear I don't care at all, because I'm not here to convince. We don't convince. It's sales. You don't convince, you sort. Amateurs convince, professionals sort. And stories sell, facts tell. And the figures and the facts are all there. The numbers are all there, but that doesn't convince anybody. But that story, that pulls at the heartstrings. That says, man, I met this guy. I didn't even think about it like that. He seems like an all right dude. And you'll find out I'm amazing you really should hang out with me. You know what I mean? That's what it means for me.
Yeah. And I want to repeat again that you said that stories can be our mentors. So maybe not tonight, it might not click, but maybe in like a year or 2 years, you'll remember his story, and it will serve as a mentor. So thank you for that. All right, Mackenzie, I'd like to ask you, could you briefly tell us what kind of law you're pursuing at Harvard and why?
Yes, thanks for asking.
Contracts.
Yes, just
Never know what's in them.
That's going to be a commercial title.
that should be that would have gotten me. No, I really want to be a judge eventually. I really appreciate judges that put so much love and care and research into every single case that they do, no matter what it is. So that's what I really want to do. I have to be a lawyer for 15 years before that, though. So I'm planning on figuring out my niche when I'm in law school. I did want to do disability law for a really long time, and I still might. But I'm going in with an open mind. I like to make 10-year plans and then change them every week. So I'm sure I'll have a plan very quickly, and then it'll change.
Well, I think it's going to be an exciting journey wherever it takes you.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Mishka, yes. We're all cheering you on. Did you hear that? You have so many best-selling books and have a lot of fans out there. Could you please tell us, what was that? Oh, I'm like, did I forget something? Could you please tell us how we can find your books and what you might be working on at the moment?
The most of my stuff is available, or I had the bulk of my success publishing digitally through Amazon, so all of my stuff is up on Amazon. You can get my hardcover memoir, I Swear I'll Make It Up to You. The aptly titled, right? It's like, well, there's no way out of that one. But it's, all the stuff is online. Fortunately, I am the only Mishka Shabali out there, so if you Google my name, you'll find way too much information. And I just self-published a collection that collects for the first time in physical print all my bestsellers for Amazon. And I sell those directly through Venmo, so they're signed, and I ship them out and stuff. What I'm working on right now, I don't know. I have a special needs cat, and I have a dog that just turned 1. I try to spend as much time with them as possible. I think we should normalize large men being obsessed with their pretty little princesses. I think I'm working on a record next called Nobody Wins. That's just a bunch of songs that I wrote during the pandemic. I'm kind of burnt out on writing right now, so I try to go back and forth from music to writing, just sort of keep things fresh, keep things spinning,
Well, we're looking forward to that. And you heard it. His name is not hard to find. So go ahead and you can support him in all those ways. So thank you so much for sharing that. HB, how is this type of personal storytelling different from the type of spoken word and poetry you present at HomeBase? And does one help the other?
How is it different? My poetry is strictly verbatim, right? So that's memorized to the word. Like I said before, I'm an Edgar Allan Poe kid. So my uncle used to come home and recite The Raven and Annabelle Lee to me when I was like 7. And like every night, I was sneaking it back and he'll recite it. It would take him an hour to get through The Raven. And he knew it by heart, but it would take him so long because he would stop and just be so hype about the rhyme scheme. And did you hear how he said that? And it was just passion, man. So The Raven and Annabelle Lee. So as a writer, I'm a fairly dark writer. You know what I'm saying? So I dive into that. It's that expression, or it's love stuff, right? But the storytelling it's different, it's new, and maybe that makes it feel more vulnerable. I tell a lot of stories in speeches and things like that, but this is just really different. I can't even put my finger on it. I think hosting events really help. It helps me connect with the crowd. Not necessarily get as distracted and things like that. So as far as the presentation of it, being used to the microphone is nice. But as far as I'm still wrapping my head around the experience. Like I said, this is the first time it happened. Yeah. And so
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm still wrapping my mind around it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not gonna get voted off the
So far, so
off the island. I appreciate it. So I think that's how it helps. Language, knowing, just kind of the ups and downs of a story or whatnot. I think it's helpful that way.
Yeah. I could see what you mean, that you're just really putting yourself out there. Like this is all you. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. That's a good way to describe it, actually. I thank you so much for answering the questions. If you are an audience member or if we have any questions in the chat, this would be a wonderful time. If you'd like to ask a specific question for everybody, for a specific teller, we'd love to hear it. We are here. Ooh, there's the lights. I can see you all. And I believe we have a question. I hear the footsteps. It's coming. Right? It was like the suspense.
Hi, this is for our Harvard student. You had said that that name tag was probably the most significant thing you ever took, which, hello, begs the question, would you be willing to say what else you stole in your life?
My mom's like, tell now. Thank you so much for it. That's a great question. Oh gosh, I've probably stolen a few necklaces from Target in my days. I would like to think I've stolen a heart or two. It's mostly the Target necklaces, I think. I'm glad I can't report much else. Like I'm glad there's not a long list. I'm still young, so.
Well, and how many times do you get asked, what have you stole?
It's like, thank you for, let me pull out my list.
Thank you for the question. Do you have any more questions out there? I hear the footsteps again.
Okay. So there's quite a lot of range in the stories tonight, right? You've got like fun, whimsy, heartbreak, maybe some kind of fury, regret. So my question is, kind of from the moment you decide what you're sharing tonight until pretty much the end of your story, how do you feel about sharing? You can imagine if this was just like a funk concert, right? People might just be excited and exhausted. But this is more complex. So that's my question, is how do you feel about sharing? For everyone.
I think after telling a story, or even during telling a story, that's where I feel my best. That's where I feel like I am doing my best to communicate my journey and my feelings to other people. My whole family's here, so I think they can vouch for the fact that I'm not the most feelings person in the world, but storytelling's the easiest way that I can, communicate my feelings around things. So I always feel really good, and getting a few laughs never hurts. That always makes me feel good as well. And then also, just as a logistical note, going first feels the best because then you get it over with and you can just you can be fully present for the amazing stories that come after you. But personally for me, when I'm last, I'm kind of running through my story and then I'm like, oh crap, wait, I need to listen to this incredible story. So thank you for taking that last spot. I think it's the hardest one.
Yeah, thank you. Mishka?
I mean, tonight I would say dread and terror. Choosing to share this story. I think that I think we all recognize that violence is reprehensible and scary, and also telling that story. There's me, there's Nate, there's Keith. At any point, any one of us could have stopped that from happening. I absolutely take responsibility for my part, but all it would take was for one of the party there to be like, wait. I think when it comes to telling stories, for me, I think my gateway drug to all this was Johnny Cash. Him telling stories in Folsom and San Quentin, and the thing about the Man in Black. That it's his job to like bring the darkness, and if I have a superpower, it's just to be honest, and just to say the thing. And I think I wish I had made you guys like me more. But I think my role as a storyteller is what HB said about getting naked. For me it's standing naked in front of everybody in my deformity and just being like, this is what it is, and there's something liberating in that, and sort of empowering in that too, that like I'm not afraid of this anymore.
Yeah. Thank you, HB.
Nervousness, right? So it's some nervousness there, and just different emotions, through, like, you reading the bio, I was like, don't say that, like, it's too much, and honestly, looking around the room, things are so polarized right now. Opinions are so strong, and everyone's irritated, and everyone's annoyed, and people can't hear a perspective that's not their own without responding with vitriol. You know what I mean? So the discussions, the conversations can't even occur. Mm-hmm. And so first, I wanted to make sure I represent my son properly, but I also want to make sure I represent my own opinions, right? My feedback, because people like to say, oh, they hear one part, and it was like, oh, you think that, and they push you all the way. It's either this or that, when everything is actually a spectrum, and we're probably more alike. I may be on this side, but I'm 48, and you may be on this side. You're just 52. We're actually really close, really close. We just happen to be on the other side of this, 50-yard line, right? Yeah. And so that's important. Being understood, so it was a little worry, I guess, right? A little concern, and then like just represent. So when I looked around, I don't know if somebody snuck in, I was the only black person here, right? So I'm telling a strong story about a cultural story. So going from, man, am I going to be understood? I don't know how it's going to be received. Is it going to be like this aggressive backlash? You know what I mean? Or what have you? Oh, why are you dogging cops? That's not what I said. That's not what I'm doing at all. So let me let y'all know I got friends. You know what I mean? Like, so it's those pieces. But anytime I'm representing one of the groups I belong to, which are many groups, from mental health to survivor of suicide to black to man to you name it, you know what I mean? To Westside Avondale, you know what I'm saying? So ASU, anytime I represent any of these things, I like to think to myself, if members of the group that I'm repping, if they saw me, would they be proud? Regardless of who is in the crowd, do I represent my people right and be courageous and do it anyway? And it is what it is. Like, ain't nobody gonna jump me outside, so worst they gonna do is have an attitude. And so, so that's kind of emotionally what I was feeling. And complete relief when it was over.
Yep.
Could not wait for it to be done. Now I could chill a little bit.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
thank God.
Yeah. And I just want to kind of add to that, surrendering, right? We surrender a lot to just letting the story be told in the way it needs to. Thank you so much all for answering those questions. Thank you so much for asking the questions. These are wonderful questions because they are very real. The reality of getting up here and telling a story, it's an emotional roller coaster. It definitely is. I want to thank every single one of you for coming out tonight. Thank you for supporting for listening, for cheering our storytellers on. Thank you. We appreciate you very much. Actually, let's give our tellers one more big round of applause. Mackenzie, Mishka, and HB. Please find them, follow them, support them, however you can. This is what community is, right? So Gather is now quarterly, and I want to let you all know that our next one will be Friday, September 9th. And actually, the Storytelling Institute at SMCC, co-founder and educator Liz Warren will be the guest host, and she's pretty incredible. The theme will be ancestors, so I have a feeling that's going to be pretty amazing. It's going to be a great show. So remember, Friday, September 9th will be the next Gather event. Look it up. Make sure you don't forget. Make sure to look at ASU Care's other events on their website, asucare.com. Thank you all so much, and we hope you have a wonderful night.